All right, we're going to kickstart momentarily.
其实我，嗯，
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Marina Chan, Director of Education at the MIT Node. And on behalf of Health Hack 2021, a huge welcome to all participants. Health Hack is co-organized by the MIT Node and MIT Hacking Medicine and supported by our growth partner and funder, the DH10 Foundation. We're delighted to kick off this week with informative talks and sharing by distinguished experts to speak to the theme of aging in place and caregiver support. Now, before I introduce our moderator who will lead the session, I'd like to bring to your attention our schedule for this week, showing the events that we have lined up for Health Hack participants, and also key milestones leading up to the day of the virtual hackathon on Saturday, May 29th. Now, feel free to take a quick screenshot of this and also reach out to us on our Slack workspace if you have any questions. Now, during the talk, we hope you will carry conversations on Slack to share and discuss your thoughts with your fellow peers of the hackathon. Now, back to tonight's session. I'm very pleased to introduce our session moderator, Mr. Solomon Wong, Program Manager at the DH10 Foundation's Institute of Wellbeing. Solomon formerly co-founded an aging-related NGO and holds a master's degree in gerontology. He will also be a mentor of Health Hack, so feel free to reach out to him during our mentorship session this coming Saturday. So Solomon, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marina, for the introduction. So hi, everyone. This is Solomon. Great seeing you all this evening. And on behalf of the DHN Foundation, welcome again to the Health Hack 2021. I very much look forward to learning exciting ideas from you all in the coming week. So just some reminders before we begin tonight. First of all, we are conducting tonight's Zoom meeting via a seminar mode, meaning you're welcome to turn on your camera and engage in the conversation. But one reminder is that please do keep your microphone muted when our guest speakers are sharing, so there won't be any interruption to the presentation. So please do that. Secondly, there will be a Q&A session after each speaker's sharing. So please feel free to either post your questions on chat and I'll ask your question on your behalf. Or you can click the raise hand button and by then I'll invite you to ask the questions. Please note that for timekeeping purpose, we can only try our best to go through as many questions as we can. So if you have got one in mind, please feel free to put it up on chat early. And yeah, great. So without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker, Dr. Vivian Lau. Dr. Lau is an associate professor at the Department of Social Work and Social Administration, the University of Hong Kong. She is also the director of Southall Center on Aging, the University of Hong Kong, as well as the member of the Elderly Commission, Community Investment and Inclusion Fund, Statistic Advisory Board, and Elderly Academy Development Foundation. Dr. Lau studied widely on family, caregiving, active aging, and their health impacts. Recently, her study extended to examining positive and resilient capacity of the family caregiving in Chinese context, including studying secondary caregivers, social support, roles of domestic helpers, and effective intervention strategy. It is a great pleasure tonight to have her to share with us on caregiver support. So yeah, let's welcome Vivian. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Solomon. Thank you for the invitation and all good evening. No, maybe good late afternoon, everyone. So first of all, let me share, or let me see, where is my PowerPoint? Okay, let me share the, where is the PowerPoint? Let me find it out. Okay, now it is there. Thank you. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yes, it looks all good.
Yeah. Let me. Okay, is it okay now?
Yes, looks good.
Yeah. Thank you. So my topic today is caregiver support and aging in place. And I'm Vivian Lau from the University of Hong Kong. I have been studying aging for over 20 years of time. So if anything, I speak too quick or you have any questions, and please raise it in the chat room, and maybe also we can discuss it after my presentation. So I have a few agendas today are from the why question to the what question, and then on how we are going to do, and what are the black box, and then some take-home messages under this topic. First of all, let's take a look at population aging. And aging is greatest challenge all over the world, but in Hong Kong, it is specifically challenged us because in the coming 2 years of time, 3 years of time, because we are already 2021, our population aging will reach the percentage of 21. And then in another 10 years of time, that is in 2034, and we are going to have over 29% of population that is older. So in the aging community, 7% is a magic. So we start from 7, there's 14, that 21, that 29. When we reach the 21, and each of us has been really aware that aging population matters to everyone. Not only the old population themselves, not only the health-related issues, but to every family, every workforce, every employee, and every employer. So this is actually very, very demand for us to pay much more attention to the population aging issues. But in Hong Kong, what makes us even more challenging is that our population sector, that is the subgroup for those who are older 85, will increase very, very fast from 2029 to 2039. So in that sense, the health-related issues would be really, really, really jump to our mind or appear in our life or even experienced in our family in the coming 10 years of time. And what is the future demands? According to the United Nations Decade of Healthy Aging Summary that has just published last year, we have 4 grand challenges in terms of the future in our aging society. The first and the very important one is change how we think, feel, and act towards age and aging. What does it mean? Because our stereotype, in particularly our negative stereotype towards old people, is popularly observed, not only among the general public, but also in media, in social media, and also among our healthcare professionals. And also among those tech workforce who is developing solutions for older adults. So how we can shift our outdated stereotype to a human rights perspective. That means to respect the independency and autonomy, and always emphasize on the informed consent on health-related matters, equal recognition before the law, social security, accessibility, and many of other fundamental human rights in terms of social participation. These are all very, very important and set up a very, very solid foundation for us to keep on going and find out solutions for population aging. And the second very important thing is, again, on how society can do to engage and embrace old age. That means to ensure that the communities foster the abilities of old people. That means maybe 20 years ago, when we talk about healthy aging, we basically emphasize more on individual behavioral change. That means, you have to quit smoking and take care of your chronic disease management, and also take medication, compliance to preventive measures, and doing exercises, this and that. And then nowadays, we emphasize more how we can reevaluate our hardware, software, our road, our transportation, our social security, our healthcare system, so that we can become more age-friendly in terms of our software, hardware, information, and service delivery and policy. So these are very, very important as well. So on top of these, we do have to understand how we can deliver a person-centered integrated care and primary health services responsive to old people and their families. And in that sense, we must shift our values and also to understand how we can assess them, to understand their needs, and to put more emphasis on primary and preventive interventions. And then the last but not the least is to provide access to long-term care for old people who need it, so that we emphasize more on the affordability, on care management, on quality assurance, and support caregivers, and also caregivers in the workforce. So these are the 4 very grounded challenges, and that will, if you can work out under each of these topics, you will be very, very contributory to our society and to our future. And what are the enablers for us to achieve that? And first of all, of course, we must link our actions to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, that is the 17 goals, if you're familiar with that. And then we have to emphasize on 4 very key enabling factors. First of all, is to empower the older adults to contribute. That means everything we do, don't do it on our own, and try to communicate with older adults, listen to their voices, and listen to them without a negative stereotype. Sometimes when we listen, we say, you have 1 need, 2 needs, 3 needs, you have 1 problem, 2 problems, 3 problems. No, they're not problem makers. They do have their own talents, their own rights, their own choices, their own autonomy that we should fully respect. So if we want to listen, please listen it with your heart. And then, of course, we want to build capacity and the leadership. I think all of you are very, very, very talented young people. And then I do hope that you can develop capacity and collaborative leadership, so that we can contribute to our aging society in a collaborative way. And then we want to connect stakeholders and build up an integrative ecology. This is why I'm here today, and also I think this is why Solomon and Lawrence, and they're all here to work together, so that we can communicate, we can discuss, we can brainstorm, we can work out solutions. And last but not least, we have to continuous research, practice, and innovation, because without this arm, we cannot success in working out solutions and enable healthy and active aging. And what are the challenges related to aging and family caregiving? And there are a few. First of all is lose functionality. That means we become disabled, and one of the things that will associate with mortality, disability, is the 4 incidents. If you look at the global burden of 4s, you will see that when we aging, and the 4 risks will become so high, and then it is related to fracture, and related to severe TBI, related to spinal cord and the neck level, and the fracture of hips, and it actually 4 is one of the biggest enemy that we should fight for. So if you work on anything that relates to disability, anything relates to family caregiving towards people with a disability, and fall prevention is one of the things that really matters. And I have actually have a gallons of the concepts you have put up under this Aging in Place, and I noticed that some of you put up the sleepy bathroom, you know, and also the healing loss, and these are all relates to fall risks, you know. And then the next burden is cardiovascular risks. That means stroke is one of the symptoms that associated with our cardiovascular risks, or you can put up as 3 highs, you know, and that is the hypertension, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. And if you have these 3 highs, and you are much more likely to suffer from stroke. And also under the COVID, you know, cardiovascular risk factors is very closely associated with higher risk of COVID as well. So according to the statistics in Hong Kong, and every year we have over 50,000 people discharged from hospital. And then I noticed that someone of you identified the re-hospital admission as one of the solutions that you wish to work that out. I found it's very relevant to healthy aging. And you know, for those people who discharge from hospitals, not only themselves need support, but also their family caregivers are in greatest need of support. Oh, let's see next. Yes. And then it's about mental ill health. One of the things that caught our attention is the depression, and as well as its associated negative impact on people's life. That is the suicide. You know, in Hong Kong, our suicide rate among the elderly is multiplies higher than other age groups. So about 10% of elderly in Hong Kong show signs of depression. So I noticed that someone of you said, you know, the happy age living concept, and to fight against the depression, and also the healthy living style. And I think these are all very important things, you know, because these are the factors that we can fight against depression. And last but not least is the dementia. You know, according to the Lancet recent publications, we know that there are 12 risk factors that is amendable. If you look at this figure, you can see that now the dementia risk factors not only belongs to those in late life, such as smoking, depression, social isolation, physical inactivity, air pollution, and diabetes. But then we can push back to midlife and also early life interventions. This life course perspective actually bring us much more ideas on how we can work out proactive and preventive solutions to dementia. For example, in the mid-age, healing loss, and I noticed that one of you put up the healing impairment as one of the focus. Maybe the brain trauma for those sport activists, and you may wish to pay attention to that. Hypertension, alcohol, obesity, and these are all relates to physical activity and the active lifestyle. And even, you know, in our early life, education is one of the most important factors that we can modify. We can put up intervention so that in later life, our dementia risk can be changed and modified. So these are the things that you might want to pay attention to in relating to health. But of course, underarm, there are one issue that we must pay attention to in terms of healthy aging and aging society. That is the inequality related to gender. If we look at the whole society, we still have about 50% of the women who are not working during their adult life. This definitely would have the impact on the social security and social support that they can obtain during their late life. And also our education literacy level among women is comparatively lower than compared to men. But on the other hand, the expected life expectancy is 6 years longer for women as compared to men. So there are quite a lot of challenges about this. And if you look at those people who deserve help and need family caregiving, and the majority, over 80% that in Hong Kong are women. So many of them, they have to quit jobs to take care of family members. And some of them, after taking care of family members, their health is kind of affected. And so that they reported poor self-rated health, reported poor sleeping quality, reported more chances to consult doctors. These are all very, very challenging issues that deserve our attention and deserve the innovative solutions. So what are the state of arts? So what we are doing now, and what are the things that you can take some references on that, in terms of fall prevention, we are actually working with the engineering department to work out intelligent robotic solutions for assisting elderlies to walk. And we are at the very initial stage of the development of the project, and later on I wish that we could have more to share with you. And then on the readmission and also cardiovascular diseases, we have just announced a mobile app called We Rise, that particularly designed to work on second stroke prevention, and also work on stroke risk factors monitoring. So if you are working on that angle, please pay attention to that, and you can download the apps, and it is free of charge. And then if you are volunteers, you can also work on that, and to support the stroke families. And then in terms of the mental health challenges, we have Dementia Family Caregiving Support App. We call it Reach Hong Kong. And this is a very comprehensive app that can help support the dementia caregivers to understand their risks, to monitor them, and also to communicate between the formal caregivers and the informal family caregivers. And we have a spirituality app that is really cultural sensitive. And if you download the app, you can play the games, and through playing the games, your sense of being will be enhanced. And also this can be used by the volunteers and young old to support those who are isolated or depressed or being discharged from the hospitals. And we had some positive experiences by collaborating with the QM hospitals to reduce the readmission rate among those who receive this intervention. And if we look at the whole issue on aging in place, we all have to be aware that aging in place, we should understand it from a much wider perspective. I think maybe 10 years ago, when we talk about aging in place, people are just talk about that, oh, I don't want to move into residential care facilities. But nowadays, we do have to use a much more wider perspective to look at this concept. It starts from independent living in the community, and then you may experience some decline in mental cognitive functioning, and then you may go to hospitals and discharged, and then you may need some community support services, and then you may need some residential care services. But it can be a short stay, and then you can go home, and even you can now receive home-based services at the end stage of life. So we have different types of projects that are running. For those who are independent living, we have the JCGAJ project that promote informed retirement planning. We have Joy Age project to work on elderly depression and its family caregiving. And we have JCETC project to work on very innovative transitional care program. And we have JCECC project to work on end of life that engage volunteers to support the patient, the person that at the end stage of life, and his or her family members and family caregivers as well. And in terms of caregiver support services, I would like to emphasize that providing support to caregivers must take care of the care recipients as well, because these two persons, they are interdependent with each other. We cannot only emphasize on caregivers without putting emphasis on the care recipients. So in that sense, we also have some projects that working on that as well. For example, the Carer Alliance project. So we are just developed a very holistic capacity building program for the caregivers under collaboration with our center in the Hong Kong Gerontology Association and another 4 NGOs. And also I have studied on how to use technology, how using technology can reduce burnout, because I noticed some of you said there's nurse emotional burnout, and sometimes, you know, applying technology that has fun would have an interweaving effect on reducing the burnout. And also, I also studied how we can enact positive mood among those who suffer from depressive symptoms in nursing homes by using our happy time in activity, so that people can try to work out a daily routine that to integrate happy time into their daily life. And after 6 months of time, they can become less depressed and more happier. So I don't think I can go through this as well. This is a very short video on male caregivers to understand more. Let me see whether I can push this out. It's a very short one.
喺今年香港越嚟越多男性擔當起照顧家中長者嘅角色，由香港大學、香港理工大學以及日本南明本大學組成嘅研究團隊，涉共訪問咗79位男性照顧者。57歲陳先生冇照顧經驗，但為咗媽媽，可惜得上網尋找醫療資訊，幫助自己提升照顧能力。61歲嘅郭先生至少同爸爸關係一般，但因為而家要照顧年老嘅爸爸，當然心情大開，想成為對方嘅支柱。62歲李先生經過詳細思慮，頂住心理上嘅壓力，決定幫媽媽前置進行手術，最後媽媽康復出院。男性照顧者不單係家中嘅問題解決者，亦都係做機遇俾自己決策者。
Okay, so this video actually pull out a very important issue on gender equality, and in caregiving ecology, we have to put another emphasis on male gender. It's a little bit different as compared to the Asian issue, where we put emphasis on more on the female side, you know. But before I conclude, I would like to bring you in perspective, which I feel is very important for you to work on innovation. That is the black box thinking. What is black box thinking? You can actually search the Google and you understand that actually this is what we call learning from failure. So when we work out the solutions, in particular applying technology or innovative solutions, we have to understand more about who are our target people. Our target population is for those who are age 65 or above. If you look at this, and they are less likely to use mobile phone, and also less likely to use the PC. That means anything relates to technology, we have to pay attention to that. No? And then what are the factors that will affecting them to use or accept technology? First of all, we have to reduce anxiety, and then we have to consider their health issues. Do they have real needs to use it? And then we must introduce a sense of control. That means, oh, this one you know how to use, and you can control to use it. And then they have to have attitudinal beliefs on the usefulness of using this technology. Then they will contribute to actual use. So don't forget to work that out, or before you work out, propose any technology related solutions. And of course, when we talk about germ technology in a sector, and we have to understand that older adults now, they have comparatively limited access to germ tech products, not only the older adults themselves, but also their caregivers, their formal caregivers, as well as their spousal or adult children caregivers, because they are themselves are usually in their middle or old age, not like those of you who are in your 20s, and then they actually started to get attached to technology in their 40s and 50s. And then they are lack of user-centric design, so that the older adults would not get any sense of how to start, how to use, how to manipulate the devices, so that they are suffering from very minimal take-up rates, and also the dissemination and promotion cannot reach to their heart. You know, sometimes it can reach their person, but not to their heart. So they're not going to use it. Okay. So last but not the least is my take-home message. First of all, if we want to promote healthy aging, we must work out our environment that is anti-ageism, as well as promote an age-friendly environment. And then we have to work out all these solutions for physical health, social, mental, and cognitive health. And so stay healthy. First of all, be a model, and then start golden age journey as early as possible. So if you have parents, you have friends who are in their 50s, welcome to join our Golden Age Journey projects, and follow our Facebook. This is a platform that we try to empower, inform the planning and action. So if you are interested, I will call your action to support us to further promote the idea by various ways. And then I would actually invite you to share happy times with your family. We have a caregiving.Hong Kong website, and we have worked out a card game solutions for that. If you are interested, please take a look at that as well. So thank you all very much, and you're welcome to email me, and then we can have more in-depth discussion on that. But of course, at this moment, I will open the floor for Q&A first. Thank you. I pass the time back to Solomon.
Thank you, Vivian. Very insightful sharing from why we should pay attention to aging, to what are the challenges, to how are the ways that we may tackle the challenges. So for the time being, please feel free to add if you have any questions on chat, or if you have a question that you would like to ask in person, please feel free to click the raise hand button. And then, I will invite you to speak. So Ray Chung, you have a question. Would you like to start?
Sure. Thanks, Professor Lau. Point 4, when you talk about the emotional burnout of the nurses, you said, because I'm thinking in terms of depression and elderly's well-being, and also caregivers' well-being, because how sometimes you talk about technology solution, how we can, you also talk about how we may give nurses and maybe the elderly some time to relax, or maybe some happy times, so they can integrate that into their daily life. But I wonder whether, so depression, I think you mentioned that that's the second worst thing to having a stroke. So it seems to be because if people were, well, of course, when we are sad, there's sometimes a reason that we're sad, and sometimes, oh, when we get old, maybe there are other reasons that's difficult to solve individually. So depression, as I think, as like from the perspective of aging, is the solution more, because if we individualize our solution, then there's a problem of manpower, right? Because we can't, honestly, it would be great if we can do that. Given the situation in Hong Kong, that of course the children, if they take care of their own elderly, that's perfect, but we can't do that much. So I don't know whether that's big, well, health, having a stroke and dementia, that's unfortunate, but at least given that they are healthy in a physical way, we do want our those that build our city to have the happy last years, right? And it's just something that I want to see whether, given that we're talking about at a policy level, how are we to juggle between distribution, manpower, and in the end, the happy end of life.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your sharing and feedback. I totally agree that working on individualized solution for mental health, in particular depression, would be very resources demanding. But what are the things we can do? I think first of all, we do have to pay attention to those who really suffered from depression but not seeking help. So that's why we have this Joy Age project. Oh, I can search the website and let you know that. Then we have a step care model to work that out, and how you can screen people from the mass community population, and how we can actually work out the solution and train the peer supporters to work on that. But then I also want to share that maybe to activate positive and happy activities is one of the alternatives that you can consider, because according to theory, activating positive emotion on a daily basis will really change your mood. This is just like, if every day you just stand in front of the mirror and smile. And then if you smile frequently, and you feel happier. So this is something that is called magic. If you can introduce something in a very positive way, and then you can become happier, So that's why I'm working on this happy time solution, and you can welcome to take a look of our website as well. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think sharing, because we in Chinese we said that happiness shared is happiness double. But in sometimes when I don't know whether we'll talk about the elderly home situation. Sometimes I went there some time ago when I visited my deceased grandma. It's rather, if they were to have activities that they get together and share their life experiences, that would be great. But we know that the situation it's very difficult. And of course, we can introduce some exercises that they can enlighten themselves, make them happier during the day. I think a good start. It's just that it's still a balance that I think we have to work out. So thanks very much for introducing us to the technology and the website that will help elderly people to get happier.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. The time is slightly overrunning, but I just noticed another question on the floor. Maybe we can just quickly go over that as well. So there's a question asking, do you make a distinction between chronological age and biological age? Or maybe I put it that way. Is it important to make that distinction?
You know, from my best understanding, these two are the same. But we have a distinction between biological age and the psychological age. That can be distinguished. Yes.
I see. Thank you. I think there's one more question. Maybe we can also quickly go over that. How do you see the market opportunity for developing smart devices to help caretakers lessen their burden on monitoring their elder family members' health? I've also told that elderly might refuse to use smart wristband and be monitored by their relatives or adult children. Thank you. Very useful sharing. So yeah, basically, how do you see the market opportunity for smart devices?
I would say there's huge opportunities for smart devices to support family caregivers. Myself, I strongly believe that. But still, it takes some time for the caregivers to take up that. And also, I think one of the things that we must do is to engage the older adults to contribute their ideas, not to just develop one and ask their caregivers and then install in their room without healing their voices, as I just shared. This is definitely wrong. If we know what they want and what is their concern, and then how we can put up a person-centered approach to design that, and then I would say these devices could be very supportive and helpful. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks again, Vivian. Very insightful sharing. And I think if you have more questions for Vivian, please do not hesitate to type it down, and maybe we'll have the opportunity to ask again, to talk again by the end of the conversation. So now perhaps let me first move on to our second speaker, and let me introduce Mr. Lawrence Loy. Lawrence is a co-founder of Longevity Design House and Longevity Technology, which is the first design house specializing in home renovation and maintenance for the elderly, with a focus in creating a comfortable and safe living environment in Hong Kong. The venture later expanded to the general tech sector and works on building a home-based e-health system and connecting assistive smart devices. Prior to his current position, he has a decade of experience in education philanthropy and public relation consultancy, including serving as the Global Communicating Director of Yidan Prize Foundation, founding the first public relations firm specifically for social enterprise in Hong Kong, as well as being a consultant for Weber Shandwick. Lawrence will share with us on his experience to tackle home constraint when planning aging in place. So thank you, Lawrence, and let's welcome Lawrence.
Thanks for inviting me for presenting our tonight. So do you see my PowerPoint presentations?
Yes, good.
Okay, hi, this is Lawrence from Longevity Design House. So tonight I will share like how we develop different aging at home services in Hong Kong. Of course, we do build physical spaces for elderly, as well as we're trying to develop some technology solutions for institutions as well as for individual elderly residential. So I think I am more share like how I developed the idea and how we work on different projects, and at the end I welcome different questions and shares your idea. So as Solomon mentions, my team, the more team, we got a team of 8 people, but we divide our team in 3 arms, including design and renovation, technology, as well as the charity project. So we actually serve different segments from a single elderly household of like 180 20 square feet to 2,000 square feet. We have different solutions, I mean, subject to their budgets and their physical needs. So Solomon mentions my background. I actually trained as advertising and PR professions, but how I observe, I mean, the demand in Hong Kong is from my personal observation. Like 8 years ago, that's my late father. He got late stage lung cancer 6 years ago, and his health deteriorated really, really fast. And that's how he looked like when he back home. And that's the home. I live in Southgate One, a old building. You can see that if we want to transfer him from hospital and back to the home, there's a lot of work to do, including the bathtub issue, the furnitures, the bed, and also he needs some medical support, oximeter, different kind of medical equipment, and the challenge the challenge I encounter is as a caregiver, I send to the outreach department, which they send we wait for 2 weeks, and then an occupation therapist come to my home to do an assessment, and then he provide me a written report. He just give you the written report, and then you need to serve the product, and also you need to coordinate with your own construction workers, and then you manage the renovation work. For my cases, my dad actually, his life is counted by months, but for this process it can take 2 months to 3 months because a assessment already take 3 weeks, and then you search the workers, and then you are under budget, you may do some price comparison, and then finally you assign the assignment to the companies, and then you need to manage by your own. And for my own experience as a caregiver, it will easily burn out because you spend a lot of energy to take care your family members, and then you need to work, and then you need to search stuff that you are not that familiar, and then you concern about whether someone will pay around the budget, and then I may exceed the budget. So that's why after my dad passed away, I feel there's a big gap, and I try to figure out actually how many how big is the gap. So I don't want to demarcate what Professor Liu mentioned, but I will see aging at home really catch my attention because by the aging populations, you will see a lot of people age over 65, and of course, and in 10 years, perhaps 60,000 household will be single elderly household. And why is it catch my attention? Because particularly I took dementia as an example, because if the people over 85, actually 1/3 of the elderly may get dementia, and for dementia, because the condition will be deteriorate anyway, you can extend or prolong the deterioration period. But after all, their health condition maybe gets worse, and there's a lot of symptoms. The caregiver at the home, they may not really can serve their family members, and then they may send to the elderly home. But you will see that in Hong Kong, most of the services actually is informal home care, and if you ask the elderly whether they want to age at home or they want to age at the elderly home, of course, you can imagine, over 90% people actually will vote for aging at their home. So my question is, if they want to age at home, or at least if their health condition allowed it, whether they can stay at their home longer and just send to their elderly home, I mean, at their late stage of their life. So we do a pilot interview there, and you just want to check if you want to age at home, what the challenges, and in short, of course, because their home actually is also aging, it's quite usual that they didn't renovate their home for 40 years, 50 years, and there's a lot of dangerous area may hurt them, and why they don't really renovate their home or have a better condition to live there. The top concern including they can't find the temporary living spaces, and also they find that there's insufficient support from the children as well as the budget. And you will see that actually the problem is whether the stakeholder, primarily the caregiver is their children, whether they really care about their elder parents, or whether they can support by inputting the resources. And of course, because the whole journey is quite complicated, and the amount of money is huge, and that's why there's some trust issue also incurred. So and also by our research, we talk to the caregiver. That's one of our early client when we do the pilot research. He lived in a private housing apartment. This gentleman actually aged at 65, and he got Parkinson's disease for 9 years. And his wife actually quit the job and then take care his husband. And why he approached us for the service, because one of the big issues is about the toilet. The toilet got a ramp, and also the shower area got a ramp like over 50 mm. That's actually prohibit them to send the gentleman to toilet and take the shower. And how they do that, they use some different medical supplies to go for toilet, and also they actually do that on the bed using the pampers or using the towels to wash the body of the gentleman. And this lady, he almost burned out because he said, "Hey Lawrence, I just don't want to imagine myself to be a nurse for 24 hours. So by the renovation, he want to lower her burden, and most importantly, he want the space not like a home, instead on a elderly center or a hospital. So it actually provides some insight about the emotional needs, as well as the needs of caregiver. The service should not only focusing on serving the patients, but also their family members. Family members can be a key stakeholder in terms of putting resources, as well as how we can lower the burden. So we developed a framework to evaluate our work. Of course, at the very beginning, we are interior design and renovation companies at the very beginning, but we don't think that we actually provide one-off solution. How we evaluate our work, including we actually adopting the well-being index. So by the physical space, we examine whether the space is good for their movement, accessibility, and convenience, and also for the mind, whether the elderly feel that the place is secure, and whether it actually support them to have more sense of self-independency and more positive. Just like the stuff, I can do that. Actually, I can walk by myself, or I can eat by myself, or I can change the clothes by myself. It's talking about self-independency. It is the directions for rehabilitations. And also, like after the whole project or the renovation project being completed, the outcome including whether it actually helping the elderly to build their own social capital, like whether their friends or their family members will visit them more frequently. And by research, we find that actually, if their kids or their friends visit them more frequently, their happiness level or well-being level will be higher. Last but not least, our occupational therapists will also like introduce some resources in the community. Either is a private resources or is the resources provided by the public sector. We will share the information to them. It's quite interesting that our client, especially for those gentlemen over like 75 years old, their habit is quite routine. They may like watch TV and they just go down to the park for half hour, and they feel quite lonely and boring if they're living alone. So part of our journey, we will also connect them to community and also build some habit. Just like for some gentlemen, anyway, we will like introduce them to take some interest class in different elderly center. So I skip here, but in general for spaces, we divide our work for fixtures, electrical and mechanical items, the furnitures, and also other works. And then I would like try to share more cases with you, like how we support different clients with different economics or physical background. So I will talk about the toilet first, because like toilet, actually every client need to approach me to renovate their toilet, because like for those like old building, like over 30 years old, they actually won't consider barrier-free toilet, because those like the code of barrier-free building only incurred by the building department in 2008. So for those like old building, you will see that there's a apartment in Kowloon Tong. The flat is quite large. It's over 1,000 square feet. It's the room of elderly, and the room actually got the toilet. But you can see that the door is not wide enough. And this client actually got the stroke case. So he is going to transfer back to the home in 3 weeks' time. And the thing is, if he, the wheelchair, the common chair can't pass, to the toilet. The ramp issue and the door opening issues. And when you get into the toilet, the bathtub and also the toilet seat is locked. Cannot fit the equipment. So for some minor works, we will like try to extend the door and then use the long barrier-free, toilet ideas, so that the commute chairs can easily pass to the toilet area. And that's the private. And another case actually is by the public housing. This lady, he is the elderly, age around 64, and he needs to take care of 2 children, and the children actually over age 30s with a diseases affecting their walkability. So the thing is, for this kind of public housing, because they buy the flat, so the housing authority will not support the maintenance issue. But the thing is also, the opening is too it's not good enough for the wheelchair to pass the ramp, and then the door actually brought the parents to go to the to take the shower. So that's another list that we need to widen the toilet, and then try to make the toilet more accessible. Because I can't share the video for you guys, in Zoom, but you can imagine when we receive the case, the elderly actually fall down in the toilet for 3 times with their eldest children. So that's why I should say, even though what your budget, you have limited budget or you have sufficient budget, but the toilet is the most critical thing because the old building can't fit their lead anyway, and they need the solution to renovate the toilet. But for some cases, usually you can't do the long barrier-free toilet. Just like these cases, a toilet of a gentleman at age 72, we can't really do the long barrier-free toilet because you can see that this building, the water pipe actually installed inside the building, and you can't really lower the pipe. And that's why for some cases, this is a stroke cases. The elderly can't really transfer his wife to the toilet. So for some cases, we need to wise the toilet platform in order to serve the need. And then that's the usual equipment we will promote to our client, including shower chairs, some anti-slip treatment, the thermal refrigerators, the toilet seat, the bar tube, the grab bar, and different equipment. So I will say for a long barrier-free toilet, actually that's a lot of equipment you may pay a lot. And this moment in Hong Kong, I should say that the product supply is quite limited. So that's one of the ideas I think is most critical, how we can create a long barrier-free toilet with more functionalities of different materials or supplies in the toilet. Okay. So and I would like to also introduce a work for public housing. We do have a project like how about using like below $25,000 for an elderly household, what's most critical material we can support them in order to pitch to our donors to support their work. And one of the market gap we take care is about the single elderly household who live in public housing for those like age over 35 years old. The number is about 30,000 households. But the thing is, when there are, and also there are policy schemes that if the elderly household willing to, give back the big flat and then to move into a tiny flat, they can get a rental fee scheme. And one of our pilot is because this stroke case, the elderly, they can't, for some public housing, fee flat 4 share 1 lift. And for some stroke cases, they need to use wheelchair anyway. So for one of my clients, actually they apply the scheme. They try to give up the large flat for a medium flat, and so that he can have a space which is a more modern public housing. But the thing is, when he moved in a new public housing, usually it just look like that. It's quite warm. He need to spend some dollars to renovate the flat. And for those like not the latest public housing model, for this household in Ping Tin essay in Nam Tin, the thing is usually for that's another case actually, but when we helping the elderly to get a new flat, usually we'll see that the huge level difference between the corridor and the flat. And when you open the door, you can imagine you actually need to put 3 ramp, the entrance, the toilet, and the kitchens. And if the elderly live by themselves, that's actually easily incur some accident, because if you fall down, no one notice that. And secondly, this kind of ramp, because especially for those in the entrance, by the fire regulation, actually you can't put any solid fixture in the corridor. So it requires the elderly to remove this ramp and put back in their home every time. So you can imagine if they don't hire a Philippine maid, or if they didn't live with the caregiver, they can't live alone. Simply by this kind of, barriers. So that's also the photos, like actually how's the old public housing look like, and by our work, we actually partner with different makers and startup. And one of the ideas we developed is to make a electric ramp. This is the ramp, and we just insert in the door. And this door is quite interesting because different public housing, the door, the frame is different. So it actually give a challenge for us to standardize the product. But anyway, our pilot actually insert this kind of electric ramp in 20 elderly residential, and the ramp is when the gentleman, after they using the ramp, using a remote control, it can easily put in this mode, and he didn't need to bow down and remove the ramp in the entrance. So that's one of our work with the makers, and we also using the 3D ramp, the 3D printing technology to use such kind of ramp, because for the housing society thing, it actually they didn't have choice for choosing the style of this ramp. That's the only style. And for those dementia patient, or for some elderly, their eye actually is not that good. So for design purposes, we do think that color contrast is good. So that's why we use the 3D printing to do the ramp, and it can be different colors and also different color contrast. And also for the toilet, you can see for this kind of toilet, by the regulation, you can you can do the renovation of toilet. Otherwise, you need to take care of the maintenance by your own. But you can imagine for a wheelchair user, first of all, he need to get from the ramp and sit on the child chair, and apart from transfer issue, she actually can clean up the towels up her hand. So one of our pilot is we try to search materials, and then we just put the anti-slip materials on the towels, and then for this material is also anti-moisture, so that it can't break, the towel won't break easily, and also they didn't really need to care about the cleaning issues, and also it provide a color contrast issues for those elderly. And also the sensor slide. Sorry, Solomon, I will finish my slide in 5 minutes. Sorry. That's one of the and secondly is about the wall, different colors. I did talk with a professor in CUHK about whether the color tones will help the early stage dementia patients or not. Although he didn't give me a scientific research to back up, but generally he agreed that more color contrast is good. And secondly, if the color is more warm or more related to nature, it helped them to become more peaceful. So we actually do the wall painting at their home, and and the elderly like forest, so we pin the forest. And we do have another early stage dementia patient. He like birds, so we build the birds. But for this case, the client also actually got another diseases. He need to sit on the wheelchairs, but he is in his early 60s. We actually line up him to the elderly center, and he joined the 長者非標 class. I'm not sure how to say it in English, but you know, anyway, that's the interest, and he even got the champion in the elderly competition. So for the design, we actually try to provide more spaces for him so that he can, and his wheelchair fans can stay at the home while he can enjoy a larger space and also can reach the sunshine. So that's why we use the bed as a foldable bed, and then he can also do the practice in his living room. Okay, so I would say for some of the devices, the furniture may help because of I mean the elderly can actually sit on I mean the cabinet and do the work by themselves. I was and few more cases. These dementia cases live in public housing. We actually moving the father I mean houses because his bed actually live near the entrance door. That's the father got the early stage dementia, and that's his bed. Too high, many stuff, and then because he got dementia, we try to move him to the bedroom, not near to the entrance, as well as near to the toilet, as he got the habit to go to the washroom 2 to 3 times during the night time. And his bedroom, because the public housing, the door issue, as I mentioned, I need to use the sliding doors and also provide some handrails, wooden handrails for them. And he also like we will also like he will hire a maid anyway, so we also provide a space for them. And then there's another toilet issues. Sorry. And as I mentioned, some furniture sometimes may help, and that's for the private elderly household. They may got more budget, so such kind of automatic showers may be applied to their home. And for those like budget people, they need style. Even though they are got different disease, they won't like living in the elderly home. So designer intervention may help because it may help them to have more, I mean, better environment. For these cases, is cancer, recovered cancer patients in early 60s. And one of his wishes is he want to, of course, he actually need to live in the medical bed, but he want the bed level except as her husband. So there's some desires. And for long-barrier free toilet, it can be much lighter if you got budgets. And this one of the design, if you need to, I mean, introduce like, I mean, independent living, the cabinet need to be fixed, and you have an area for them to sit in. Okay. Sorry. I think time is up, but I would say that we also have some experience about how to introduce some basic sensor in the public housing in order to track the motion of the elderly. If they got any abnormal behavior, the labor will be alerted and they can support help. We got some pilot in Hong Kong, and we also have experience about developing the watches searching system in Macau, like helping the dementia patients, if they need to go outdoor, if they got lost, the NGO actually can send the search team to find them. And last but not least, during the COVID-19 environment, we try to work with different startups to do different projects. For example, we work with this green painting, indoor green painting household. We sell the machine to the elderly home because they can't visit the elderly home, and the elderly, quite boring. And then we sell this machine so that every month they have a harvest event, and then they can cut the vegetables and eat together. That's it's about application. Of course, this indoor green painting machine is not selling to elderly home. It is for the US market, for the household market. But if you think about the application, you actually have the plant therapy outcome for the elderly, and also it helps to build a routine for those elderly. So we actually also selling to some individual flat because the gentleman is boring anyway. And we also work with Tammy. This Tammy is quite hot, like Effie, not Effie, but most of the private elderly home bought that recently. But during last year, we actually worked with them and with an insurance company. Through the robotic machine, we deliver a voluntary workshop, music class with those like elderly. And last but not least, we also got different furniture project, and I will also talking about 3D printing because we actually support our 800 elderly household for some minor repair work at the home. And for COVID-19, the water pipe actually is one of the key issues. So last year we did work with another social enterprise called Idea Makers. We 3D print a equipment for the elderly household, more easier to refill the U-shaped pipe of their home. So it's a quite easy idea. But I should say that 3D printing, by our research, it can be more lighter for a designer point of view. We actually saw a team in Japan. It's a designer team. He used different kind of 3D printing technology to print the elderly equipment. I will say that like this kind of equipment is the usual equipment for the Parkinson household to bought that in the rehab shop, but it's quite boring. And this kind of stuff actually is designed for 30 years. But by 3D printing, you actually can personalize this kind of equipment and support the aged home environment. And this kind of idea, no one do that in Hong Kong. So I really look forward if any team can further develop that. Sorry, I think my time is over. So I stop here first and see whether you have any question or you want to discuss any idea.
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you so much for inspiring us for creative applications of technology, or maybe sometimes it's old school technology or old school stuff, but you just need to apply it creatively. So thank you very much for the inspiration. So there's one question from the floor. Hi, Lawrence. May I know that sensors are included in the elderly home device you mentioned for motion detection?
Yes, but I should say by our work experience, if the elderly living with their family members, or if the caregiver is the maid they hire, usually they are quite a lot like the sensor. Although the sensor is not the cam, it's just a motion sensor. By our experience, they just didn't like that, because that sensor, when you look at the ceiling, something in the ceiling, they just hate that. Even though our charity project is free of charge, the rejection rate is very high. So from my experience, only those like single elderly household and the the children. I mean, the caregiver, the kid have a more power. They are willing to install the sensor, and of course the sensor is not. I mean the hardware. The sensor is not developed by us. We try to source different sensor and put that, in our platform.
Great, thank you. The time is pretty packed, so thank you again for both of your sharing. I know time is short, so sorry, Lawrence, we can't let you finish the presentation. But I just want to type down your company name, Longevity Design 長屋設計 in the chat box. I think if you Google it, you can probably find a lot more examples through media interviews with Lawrence and on their website. So a very insightful section. Thank you both very much again. A very insightful section, and I learned a lot from the sharing tonight. Obviously, aging is a process that everyone goes through. And as our population ages, we are not just talking about society with more older adults, but more and more families will encounter challenges on caregiving. So I think this sharing is actually very helpful, not only for teams to develop ideas, but also for us to rethink what are the needs of our aging parents. And just before we end, I think this is what I just shared is exactly why the DHN Foundation is supporting this year's Health Hack with a theme on the future of aging and with two specific focus on caregiver support and aging in place. Aging in place is obviously a wish shared by many older adults, but it is never a dream that can easily be realized. So of course, there are a lot of challenges and problems to resolve along the process. But if we offer the right intervention, a caregiving journey can definitely be a blessing for family members, for them to reflect and rebuild a relationship with each other, to experience solidarity and find meanings in caregiving. So yeah, I just want to share how important it is for all of us to think about solutions together. Thank you again for joining this year hackathon. I think you all enjoy and have a lot of interesting ideas from this week. And thank you. And I'll now pass the time back to Marina.
Great, thank you, Solomon. And thank you once again to Dr. Lau and Lawrence for a very engaging sharing and also discussion around these two very core sub-themes along the future of aging. I'd like to just remind our participants who may have joined us a little later that this week we have upcoming events. So tomorrow we've got a healthcare startup sharing happening at the same time, starting at 6:15. And then Wednesday we would expect a team problem pitch submissions to be due if you do feel compelled to propose a problem pitch. We will then expect some team formation happening. You can go through our Slack channels to find teammates or to join existing teams. And we will be expecting the deadline to form teams on Thursday noon, followed by an evening workshop on design thinking led by our medicine counterparts from MIT. And then Friday is a day where you can get to know the team through Slack channels and Zoom and other communication medium to get started before our Saturday official launch of the virtual hackathon. So a lot to go through this week, but thank you so much for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow and also online on Slack. Once again, thank you to our wonderful speakers and also Solomon for your great moderation. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.